The twilight crawled across Hollow Creek, painting the silhouette of the whispering woods in shades of bruised purple. Legends swirled around the ancient forest, tales of restless spirits whispering terrible secrets to those who dared enter. Sarah, the fearless leader, scoffed at the rumors. But tonight, fueled by a potent cocktail of boredom and teenage audacity, she led a group: Liam, the brooding artist, Emily, the quiet observer, and Tim, the nervous joker, on a foolhardy quest to prove the woods were nothing more than a spooky myth. They ventured deeper, the air thickening with an oppressive silence. Sunlight struggled to pierce the dense canopy, casting long, grotesque shadows that danced across the forest floor. Every rustle of unseen leaves, every snap of a twig, sent shivers down their spines. This was no ordinary forest. It pulsed with a malevolent energy, a living entity that watched them with unseen eyes. As dusk choked the remaining light, they stumbled upon a clearing. A ramshackle cabin, its windows boarded shut like sightless eyes, loomed in the center. This was the abandoned home of the Miller family, who had vanished without a trace decades ago. A morbid curiosity gnawed at them, and with trembling hands, they pried open the creaking door. The stale air inside was thick with the weight of forgotten lives. A half-eaten meal sat on the table, a doll with a single vacant eye lay on the floor, and a child's rocking chair creaked back and forth, seemingly on its own. A cold dread settled in their stomachs, a premonition of something terrible lurking within the shadows. Nightfall slammed shut like a coffin lid. They huddled around a meager fire, its feeble light failing to dispel the oppressive darkness. Then, the whispers began. A low, insidious murmur, slithering through the warped floorboards, worming its way into their minds. It spoke of their deepest fears, their darkest secrets, twisting their vulnerabilities into instruments of torture. Panic flickered in their eyes. Liam's artistic dreams morphed into grotesque parodies on the walls, painted in an unseen hand with a foul-smelling, viscous liquid. Emily felt an unseen force tugging at her hair, whispering of a past she desperately tried to bury. Tim, his bravado shattered, whimpered in a corner, clutching a crucifix that seemed to offer no solace. Suddenly, a violent gust of wind slammed into the cabin, extinguishing the fire and plunging them into suffocating darkness. A blood-curdling scream pierced the silence. They scrambled towards the sound, hearts hammering against their ribs, only to find Tim hanging limply from a rafter, his face contorted in silent agony. There were no ropes, no signs of struggle, just a faint, glowing sigil branded on his forehead. Panic morphed into a raw, primal terror. They scrambled for the door, but an unseen force slammed it shut. The whispers crescendoed into a chilling cacophony, threatening to shatter their sanity. Then, a ghastly figure materialized in the center of the room. It was a skeletal figure, shrouded in tattered robes, its face obscured by a swirling mass of inky darkness. Its eyes, two malevolent embers, glowed with a cold, predatory light. This was no longer a forest haunted by whispers. This was a sentient evil, a malevolent poltergeist feeding on their terror. It lunged at Sarah, its skeletal hand dripping with an oily ichor. She dodged in the nick of time, the spectral hand slamming into the wall, leaving a smoldering crater. Desperate, Emily grabbed the rusted poker from the fireplace and charged at the entity. The poker passed harmlessly through its spectral form, eliciting a chilling, inhuman laugh that echoed through the cabin. Sarah, grabbing a kerosene lamp that miraculously remained lit, hurled it at the figure. The flames engulfed the entity, but it seemed to have no effect. Suddenly, Liam, his eyes glazed over with a terrifying serenity, walked towards the poltergeist. "It wants us to fear," he muttered, his voice devoid of emotion. He reached out and touched the entity, a look of horrifying understanding dawning on his face. Then, with a scream that tore through the night, Liam dissolved into a cloud of dark mist, absorbed by the poltergeist. The entity's power seemed to surge, its malevolent laughter filling the cabin. Sarah and Emily, fueled by a desperate need to survive, smashed through a boarded window and lunged into the night. The poltergeist's enraged shriek echoed behind them as they fled blindly into the unforgiving woods. The Whispering Woods were no longer just a place of whispers. They were a living nightmare, a domain of a malevolent entity that fed on fear and despair. Sarah and Emily, forever scarred by the horrors they witnessed, became the only living souls to escape the clutches of the forest. They carried a chilling burden, a burden heavier than fear itself, the knowledge of what awaited anyone who dared enter the woods. Back in Hollow Creek, their story was met with disbelief, not just whispers of teenage folly, but accusations of fabrication. The villagers, a tight-knit community, were reluctant to believe in the existence of a malevolent entity, especially one residing in the heart of their beloved, albeit spooky, woods. Sarah, her fiery spirit tempered with a chilling resolve, and Emily, her quiet demeanor masking a core of steely determination, refused to be silenced. They knew the whispers were real, a chilling truth echoing in the fragmented memories of the night. Liam's horrifying sacrifice, the entity's insatiable hunger for fear, and the terrifying realization that it thrived off their terror. Driven by a desperate need to prevent further tragedies, they delved into the village's dusty archives, a rabbit hole of forgotten records and faded photographs. Their research unearthed a chilling truth that sent shivers down their spines. The Millers weren't just ostracized, they were accused of witchcraft, a dark stain on Hollow Creek's history fueled by superstition and fear. The whispers, they realized, weren't just projections of their fears, they were echoes of the villagers' own guilt, amplified by the entity's dark power. This wasn't just about confronting a monstrous entity, it was about facing a collective past shrouded in fear and prejudice. Armed with this knowledge, they knew simply telling the villagers wouldn't suffice. They needed to break the cycle of fear. Sarah, channeling the fiery spirit that had once fueled her recklessness, organized a village gathering. The once vibrant square now held a somber mood, as villagers, faces etched with a mix of skepticism and unease, gathered around the makeshift stage. Emily, her voice trembling slightly but steady despite the tremor in her hands, recounted their harrowing experience. She spoke not just of the terror and the whispers that gnawed at their souls, but of Liam's sacrifice, how he understood that fear empowered the entity. A tense silence followed. Denial flickered across some faces, a flicker that Sarah recognized. It was the same fear that had driven the villagers to ostracize the Millers years ago. But beneath the denial, a glimmer of shame peeked through. Then Sarah, her voice ringing with conviction, proposed a solution, a radical one, but one they desperately needed. They would hold a cleansing ceremony at the edge of the woods, a symbolic act of confronting their fear and acknowledging the Millers' injustice. The proposal hung in the air, heavy with the weight of a potential rejection. The villagers murmured amongst themselves. The cleansing ceremony was a radical notion, a metaphorical bridge they were unsure of crossing. But the alternative, living in perpetual fear of the woods, a fear that had already claimed one life, was simply unbearable. Slowly, hesitantly, they agreed. On the day of the ceremony, a somber mood blanketed Hollow Creek. As they reached the tree line, the air grew thick and oppressive, the whispers faint but still present, a reminder of the darkness that lurked within the woods. Sarah lit a bonfire, its flickering flames casting eerie shadows on the anxious faces around her. The villagers, some clutching old prayer books, others holding hands for silent support, recited a prayer for the Millers, an apology for the fear and accusations they had hurled. It was a simple act, a whisper against the cacophony of the woods, but it held the weight of their collective guilt. As the flames danced higher, a chilling wind swept through the trees, the whispers crescendoing into a malevolent cacophony. The villagers flinched, fear threatening to engulf them once more. But Sarah and Emily stood firm, their eyes fixed on the flames, holding on to Liam's sacrifice, a silent reminder that fear would only empower the entity. The wind howled, the whispers clawed at their minds, but they held their ground, a beacon of courage against the encroaching darkness. Slowly the wind subsided. The whispers, hesitant at first, began to dwindle, losing their former intensity. A sense of peace, fragile yet real, settled over the gathering. The villagers, shaken but resolute, knew the fight wasn't over. The entity still lurked within the woods, a malevolent presence waiting for an opportunity. But they were no longer defenseless. They had faced their fear, acknowledged their past mistakes, and ignited a flicker of hope. As dawn painted the sky with streaks of pink and gold, Sarah and Emily, along with the villagers of Hollow Creek, stood united on the edge of the woods. The whispering woods still held secrets, but the teenagers' terrifying ordeal had instilled a newfound courage in the hearts of the villagers. They would remain vigilant, not with fear, but with a newfound understanding that confronting darkness, however terrifying, was the only way to banish its shadows. The forest may continue to whisper, but now the whispers held a different tone. No longer a cacophony of terror, they were a mournful echo, a lament for the injustice done to the Millers and a chilling reminder of the entity's presence. Years passed, and Hollow Creek thrived. The cleansing ceremony became an annual tradition, a somber yet hopeful ritual that served as a constant reminder. The villagers, once fearful of the woods, now approached them with a newfound respect. They planted trees along the border, a symbolic gesture of healing and a way to reclaim the land. Sarah and Emily, forever bound by their shared experience, became the guardians of this newfound courage. They educated the younger generation about the Millers and the importance of confronting fear. Sarah, her fiery spirit tempered by wisdom, became the town sheriff, her bravery a beacon of security. Emily, her quiet strength blossoming, became a teacher, her lessons filled with empathy and understanding. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves began to blaze with vibrant hues, a young boy named Alex, curious about the oft-told tale of the Whispering Woods, ventured too close to the tree line. The whispers, faint but present, snaked into his mind, weaving a tapestry of his deepest fear, of being lost and alone. Panic welled up within him, threatening to consume him. Suddenly, a gentle hand rested on his shoulder. He turned to see Sarah, her eyes filled with understanding. "Don't be afraid, Alex," she said, her voice firm yet kind. "The whispers are just echoes. They can't hurt you if you don't let them." Together, they walked back towards the village, the whispers growing fainter with each step. As they reached the edge of the tree line, Alex, his fear replaced by a newfound sense of courage, turned to Sarah. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Sarah smiled. "Remember, Alex," she said, "the woods may whisper, but you have the power to choose what you listen to." The whispers continued, a chilling reminder of the darkness within the forest. But now, they were met not with fear, but with a quiet defiance. The villagers of Hollow Creek, forever changed by the ordeal of Sarah, Emily and Liam had learned a valuable lesson. Courage, empathy, and a collective spirit were the only true weapons against the shadows that lurked within the woods and within themselves. The whispers may never truly be silenced, but now, they were just whispers, a faint echo in the face of a community that had chosen to walk towards the light.